Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another edition of BadgerBlitz TV. I'm Jay Kocorowski, senior writer at BadgerBlitz.com. Of course, your home for all things Wisconsin athletics, football, basketball on the recruiting trail. We got you covered. Happy Friday. It is Friday morning, and we are happy to be joined right now, getting right into it. The basketball season has begun. Wisconsin off to a 2-1 record, a loss to Providence on Monday night, and we're joined by fellow senior writer at Badger Blitz. We got Benjamin Worgull. Ben, good seeing you, my friend. And already 3 games in. We're both covering football on tomorrow, on Saturday. You're covering basketball. It's a busy time. What can you make so far of Wisconsin's 2-1 start?
Yeah, happy hoop season. It feels like it was a terribly long off season, especially for Wisconsin, with everything that kind of went down over the off season, with a number of players leaving the program via going professional route, via transfer. Obviously, the Orlando Tucker issue with him not being retained, the leaked audio tape. There was a lot of storylines this offseason that I think everyone was kind of excited to get back to basketball to a degree. And this is such a young team this year that there was last year you kind of knew what you were going to get out of Wisconsin, I think, to a degree, especially by the time it got to the middle of Big Ten play, when it just kind of became a one-note team without much variety. I think this team is so young with 12 underclassmen and so many just people that are new to the program, like Chris Vogt transferring from Cincinnati, or Jacoby Neath transferring from Wake Forest, and even Isaac Lindsey transferring from UNLV, that there's just this unknown quantity about them that makes them interesting and unique, and you never know what you're going to get. And I think 2-1 for where they're at is not a bad start. I think you expected them to beat St. Francis, Brooklyn, and Green Bay. I think the game on Monday against Providence was a very winnable game that maybe did not turn into a winnable game once Johnny Davis was ruled out. When you lose your leading scorer and at 15 a game, and someone who is really kind of probably the more dynamic shot maker on your team, the guy that really can create his own offense, it became kind of a tougher task. And I think for the most part, Wisconsin played well on Monday. It just that 8-minute stretch at the end of the first half really is what separated them. And you could tell that Providence was an experienced team. I mean, they started 3 graduate seniors, another senior, and a 4th-year junior on their team. And Wisconsin just doesn't have that type of experience now. And I talked to Joe Kravinoff yesterday on Thursday, and I said, how do you turn a 19-year-old first-year starter into a 24-year-old veteran? What's the magic potion? He just says, it just takes time. It just takes experience. I mean, you can teach a guy what to do in a drill. You can teach him what to do with a bag and a coach and a ball and a rim. You can teach him what to do in 5-on-5 or 1-on-1. But until you get in a game and there's no whistle to slow down a drill when the bullets are flying, that's when that player needs to gain that experience. And I think a lot of guys on Monday, despite the loss, took some very valuable lessons away from that will help them coming into next week, and especially the rest of the non-conference and the Big Ten season.
You talked about the loss there. Just some real quick stats and some silver linings. I want to ask you about that in a second, but just some quick stats for Wisconsin. Scoring margin, they're plus 18.7 right now. They're averaging about 70 points per contest, allowing just under 52 points per game, which helped kept them in the contest against Providence on Monday. Still cold shooting, 28.6% from three-point range, hitting 80% of their free throws and whatnot. About almost 9 assists per game, and they're about 9 turnovers per contest as well in these first 3 games. Ben, I guess looking back, I said on that Providence loss, and you mentioned it in our takeaways post that you posted on BadgerBlitz.com. There were some silver linings. There were some things to take from it where, yeah, Jonathan Davis wasn't there, and if he is in the game, there very well could be a different outcome. But what did you take in terms of, even though we don't count moral victories in the game of basketball or football for that matter, what could they gain from that on Monday?
Well, I think this Wisconsin basketball team should take silver linings away because they're so young. And this really was the first opportunity for a lot of players to play a physical team. A team that they don't have the advantage against in the low post. They towered over St. Francis and Green Bay. There's no question about that, and the final stats indicated that. They didn't do that with Providence. Nate Watson, Providence's forward/center, is 260 pounds he's listed at. That's that's a big-bodied guy that Wisconsin had to deal with in the low post, and so that's a different challenge for uh, uh, Ben Carlson and Stephen Crowell and Carter Gilmore, guys who are playing extensive minutes for the first time in their college career. And it's a little bit of a wake up call. There's a story on BadgerBlitz now talking to Ben Carlson, who uh, struggled a lot in the last 10 minutes of the first half, and kind of what went wrong in that half, and what does he learn from that? Because remember, Ben Carlson started his career last year with a bang. Double figures against Eastern Illinois, was a key member of the rotation. Then had a stress fracture in his back, and then didn't play for the entire after the first 6 games. He only played 1 minute of one game the rest of the year, and that was against North Carolina. So this was a huge opportunity for him, and those were learning lessons. Silver linings, this team's really good defensively. It's early. It's a very small sample size, but they're already ranked 13th. They're 14th in the Ken Pom adjusted defensive rankings. That's pretty good for a team that only has established returners in Brad Davison, Tyler Wall, and Jonathan Davis. And even Davis hadn't started a game all last year. He was off the bench. So this is a new role for him. Tyler Wall started, I think, the final 13, 14-ish games when Nate Reavers kind of went in the tank last year. So this is his first season. Tyler's really being that reliable guy. He's the second oldest veteran on this team behind Brad Davison. So a lot of new players in new roles, and to see them connecting so well, having good synergy on the defensive side of the floor this early, that's encouraging. And Brad Davison has said this is the best defensive team he's been on. So that's something they can build upon. I think the shots will fall. You have a lot of guys that are, like I said, a lot of minutes, extended minutes for the first time in their career. I think the shots, for the most part, were good on Monday. Again, just some nights you're just not going to make those shots, but still have a chance to win late on a night where you shoot under 40% from the field, under 30% from three. You don't have Jonathan Davis. A lot of encouraging things. They just need to find that consistent third score. I think Brad had 25, 27, somewhere in there. Tyler Wall had 16. Next highest score was 5 points. That's a pretty big gap. You need some of those younger players to provide more from an offensive standpoint, and that will come. That will come, I think, with time and more experience.
Now, I know he was out against Providence and whatnot, but Jonathan Davis, just out of the 2 games that you've watched him, how would you say his development's gone as a sophomore?
Fearless. He's not shy. He's not shy about shooting the ball. His shooting percentage isn't great, but he's not shying away from taking opportunities. I think you're seeing more of a 3-point perimeter game to him, something that wasn't quite there a year ago. He didn't shoot that well or take that many shots from 3-point range a year ago. A lot of guys on the team didn't shoot the ball well from 3 last year, but I think you're seeing Jonathan Davis have a more willingness to attack. And that was one of the big things with Dimitri Trice, too, last year running the point. Trice, I thought, was a tremendous point guard, but someone who wasn't really willing to attack the paint and get to the free throw line, and his numbers from the foul line kind of backed it up. Jonathan Davis is someone who's willing to stick his nose in there, find a lane, and drive to the hoop. And when you get to the lane, good things usually happen. You can obviously make the basket. You can get and one opportunities. You can draw fouls to get their players in foul trouble, get yourself to the free throw line, or you can draw double teams and find the open man. And Jonathan Davis is good enough to have that court vision to be that big creator for the team, even though he's not technically the point guard. But talking to Jonathan at Media Day, he said that he's started working on the point a little bit just because there's so much inexperience at that point position. Certainly this team wants Chucky Hepburn, the true freshman from Omaha, Nebraska, to succeed. But there'll be times where Hepburn needs a break, or Hepburn's not he in a situation where Wisconsin needs to have kind of a change of pace a little bit, or a different look, or Hepburn, for whatever reason, just isn't in the flow offensively, or matchups. And I think Jonathan Davis, based on what he did this summer, winning a gold medal with the USA basketball program, came back with a lot of confidence, a lot of swagger. And that's someone that is going to be instrumental to this team's success this year. And it's going to take a lot of guys. I think Davis, Wall, and Davidson are the key leaders of this team, and it's up to them to set the tone for the rest of that crew to follow.
Hey, 2 more questions before we end this program. Talk about Chucky Hepburn. 3 games in, what do you like about him, and just what do you think his ceiling could be for this Wisconsin program?
High motor, doesn't quit. Gard joked that if he could defend full court for 40 minutes, he would. You see early on what the staff really likes in him. Just his ability to defend. I think he had 4 steals against Green Bay. So on a night he didn't shoot well, he still made an impact defensively by going one-on-one with their guard and tiring that guard out. He hasn't shot the ball particularly well early. I think he was 1 for 5 against Providence. He's taken some questionable shots, forcing some shots a little bit, maybe trying to do a little too much to be a playmaker. But again, experience. He's 3 games into his college career. But I've seen enough here early where I can be encouraged by what he could be leading this team. I think if you have Hepburn at the 1, then you get Davison and Davis at kind of the 2 and the 3 kind of interchange there. Then you have Crowell at the 5. You have Tyler Wall at the 4. That's a potent lineup. And I like Chris Vogt coming off the bench. I'd like to see a little bit more from him offensively. But I think he has commands such a presence on the inside. And I think this team is deeper than they were last year. I think Lauren Bowman is just kind of getting his feet under him a little bit and can be an impact player. There's so much versatility with this lineup. While last year I think everyone was kind of locked into their roles that when things went sideways, it was hard for them to kind of break out of it. I think this year's team can mix and match a little bit and do some things that last year's team couldn't, and that ultimately will be the benefit of this team. And Hepburn, with his ability, with his confidence, they can play faster. And that's something that Hepburn likes to do. That's something that Johnny Davis likes to do. So transition opportunities, fast break opportunities might be something we'll see more of this year to kind of up the tempo a little bit and give Wisconsin some opportunities for some easy offense off their defense.
Last question for you, Ben, before we let you go. Looking ahead next week, Maui except in Las Vegas. What do you expect? Obviously, I know that we weren't going to be able to make it out to Hawaii, but there's also Vegas coming up. I know one of your favorite places to go. What should we expect from Wisconsin in that tournament going forward?
Yeah, had I known this would have been in Vegas, I would have fired up the chopper and I would have went. I already made plans. I thought I was in Maui. Unfortunately, I got my Vegas skyline picture over here. It's going to be the Maui Invitational is always one of those premier events, and Wisconsin, I think this is their 4th time in it. And I would argue this probably isn't the strongest field they've had in past years, but it's still a field that's going to test Wisconsin. They opened with the Texas A&M team that's 4-0. They've kind of blown out 4 teams that they should have blown out, coached by former Marquette coach, former Virginia Tech coach Buzz Williams. So Buzz knows what Wisconsin basketball is, and I'm sure his guys will be prepared. A lot of guys that average in double figures are leading scorer. This is another opportunity for guys like Crowell, Vogt, and Carlson. And the low post, their leading scorer, Coleman, is a 240-pound forward that is pretty talented from what I've seen in the limited film that I've watched. So that will be a good test. But the other thing, too, is that they're going to play 3 games in 3 days guaranteed. And, in game 2, they're going to play a Butler team that is usually pretty scrappy, or a Houston team, which is top 25. Other end of the bracket is Notre Dame and St. Mary's. Chaminade is over there. I'm forgetting who the other team is. But it's one of those things where Wisconsin is going to be tested. And this is kind of what you want for this young team. You want to push them outside their comfort zone. So when you get into Big Ten play, which is coming up just around the corner here, I think Indiana is December 4th, I want to say, that they will be ready, that they will be battle tested. So encouraging with what this team is. And again, as Joe Kravinoff told me, we didn't do so well on that last test, but that's the great thing about basketball. There's another test after that, another test after that, and another test after that. This is just the next test in line for Wisconsin to get ready for Marquette. Marquette's December 4th, and then Indiana shortly after that. Yep. So it doesn't get any easier for Wisconsin over the course of the next several weeks. And thankfully, it sounds like Johnny Davis will play after not playing Monday. So that'll be encouraging to get their leading scorer back, and we'll see what Wisconsin can do in Vegas.
Ben, I know you have that Ben Carlson piece up on BadgerBlitz.com right now. What else do you got coming up for basketball coverage as we await the tournament going forward next week?
Well, I got some stuff coming up on Carter Gilmore, Chris Vogt as well. We'll have a piece up on Johnny Davis probably before the Marquette game. Takeaways and analysis all next week. Every day, after every game, we'll have our diagnosis of the game, my takeaways from the game. So even though football is kind of gearing towards a potential Big Ten championship game in Indianapolis, there's still plenty of hoops talk, and I'll be on top of that all season long here on BadgerBlitz.com.
Excellent. Folks, that is Benjamin Worgull, senior writer at BadgerBlitz.com. Folks, thanks again for tuning in to this show. Make sure y'all subscribe on, of course, this channel. Give us some thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. Search us on Facebook, Wisconsin Badgers on BadgerBlitz.com. On Twitter, for Ben, it's at The Badger Nation. For me, it's at Jake Coco. And our editor, John McNamara, is at McNamara Rivals. And, of course, we have a podcast. Anytime you see, Apple, Spotify, Google, to search BadgerBlitz.com podcast. We'll have part of this conversation up on there, along with a lot more. I talked to Tristan Monday, the newest Wisconsin 2022 football commit. We'll have that up there as well. So y'all take care. Have a great start to your Friday. We'll have more this week from BadgerBlitz TV and BadgerBlitz.com.